Hey everyone, welcome back to a new episode in our commentary series about the writings of Ajmal from his website, theborderofamind.com.
Yes.
This time we're going to be taking a closer look at his blog post titled, Lit Up from the Inside.
Okay.
And you know that feeling of having like a fantastic idea for a project, like just bubbling inside you, but never quite finding the time or the courage to actually bring it to life?
Yeah.
That's exactly what Ajmal dives into here.
Right.
And I have a feeling that his insights might just be the push you need to finally get started on that passion project you've been dreaming of.
For sure. What I find particularly interesting about this piece is that Ajmal doesn't just offer like a surface level motivation.
Right.
He delves into the psychological barriers that we often construct for ourselves.
Yeah.
He calls out the common fear of failure, but then he goes a step further by suggesting that this fear often stems from a misconception.
Okay.
We mistake the discomfort of growth for a sign that we're on the wrong path.
Oh, that's so insightful.
Yeah.
I've definitely fallen into that trap before, thinking that if something feels challenging, it must mean I'm not cut out for it.
Right.
But what if that discomfort is actually a sign that I'm stretching myself and learning and evolving?
Exactly. And Ajmal points out that if we can reframe that discomfort as like a necessary part of the creative process, we can actually transform our relationship with fear.
Yeah.
He even suggests that by leaning into those moments of uncertainty, we might discover hidden reserves of resilience and resourcefulness we never knew we had.
Okay, so what does Ajmal suggest we actually make this shift?
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to intellectually understand that fear can be a sign of growth.
Sure.
But it's another thing to actually feel it move forward anyway.
Well, he introduces this fascinating concept of what he calls microbursts.
Okay.
Instead of trying to tackle the entire project at once, which can feel overwhelming,
Right.
he advocates for breaking it down into tiny, almost ridiculously small, actionable steps. These microbursts could be as simple as spending 5 minutes brainstorming ideas or researching a single aspect of your project.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like tricking your brain into taking action by making the steps so small, it almost feels silly not to do them.
Right.
And before you know it, those tiny bursts of effort start to accumulate into real, tangible progress.
Precisely. And Ajmal argues that each completed microburst acts as a mini victory, reinforcing a sense of self-efficacy and building momentum toward the larger goal. He even suggests that the act of simply crossing these tiny tasks off a list can create a positive feedback loop, making it easier to tackle the next microburst with even greater enthusiasm.
This is already making me think about all those projects I've been putting off. There's always an excuse, right? I don't have enough time, or I need to do more research. But what if I just committed to one microburst per day?
Yeah.
I bet I'd be surprised by how much I could accomplish.
And that's precisely the point Ajmal is making. He's not advocating for some grand, life-altering overhaul.
Right.
He's suggesting that real change often starts with those small, seemingly insignificant actions.
Yeah.
It's about shifting our focus from the daunting enormity of the end goal to the simple satisfaction of taking one tiny step forward and then another and another.
Yeah, I think this ties into another concept. Ajmal brings up the idea of imperfect action.
Yes.
He talks about how perfectionism can be a major roadblock,
Right.
keeping us stuck in a cycle of planning and procrastination. He encourages us to embrace the messy, iterative nature of the creative process and just start putting our work out there, even if it feels rough around the edges.
Absolutely. And he even challenges us to reevaluate our definition of failure.
Okay.
What if, instead of viewing it as a definitive endpoint, we saw it as valuable feedback that can inform our next iteration? What if we embrace the idea that our initial attempts might be clumsy, imperfect, even outright bad,
Right.
but that those very failures could hold the seeds of our greatest breakthroughs?
I love that shift in perspective.
Yeah,
It takes the pressure off needing to get everything right from the start.
for sure.
It makes the whole process feel more playful, more experimental, and ultimately more freeing.
And that's what Ajmal is ultimately inviting us to do, to reclaim the joy of creation, to reconnect with that intrinsic motivation that sparked our passions in the first place.
Right?
It's not about achieving some external measure of success. It's about cultivating a sense of fulfillment that comes from simply engaging in the process itself.
This is all resonating so deeply with me, and I'm sure our listeners are feeling it too. But before we get too carried away with inspiration, let's take a moment to explore how Ajmal suggests we actually put these ideas into practice.
That sounds like a perfect segue into the next part of our discussion.
Okay.
But first, let's take a quick break.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back.
All right, see you in a few.
So we've talked about the fear that holds us back. and Ajmal's idea of microbursts to overcome inertia.
Right.
But how do we actually identify those tiny steps?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Where do we even begin?
And I love how Ajmal breaks this down.
Yeah.
He encourages us to tap into our innate curiosity.
Okay.
What questions are swirling around in your mind about this project?
Right.
What aspects genuinely excite you? Those are your starting points.
It's like following a breadcrumb trail of fascination, instead of getting bogged down in the how-tos from the outset.
Yeah.
He suggests we allow ourselves to be guided by those initial sparks of interest. Maybe it's researching a particular material,
Right.
sketching a rough concept,
Yeah.
or even just jotting down a stream of consciousness list of ideas.
And I think that's where the magic of imperfect action really comes into play.
Right.
It's about giving ourselves permission to explore, experiment, and even make mistakes without the pressure of needing to create a masterpiece right out of the gate.
Precisely. And this is where he introduces another intriguing concept.
Okay.
The feedback loop of courage. He argues that each time we take action, regardless of the outcome, we strengthen our courage muscle.
Okay.
We prove to ourselves that we are capable of moving forward even in the face of uncertainty.
It's like building confidence through repeated exposure.
Yeah.
The more we step outside our comfort zones, the less daunting those steps become. And eventually, what once felt terrifying might even start to feel exhilarating.
Exactly. And Ajmal reminds us that this process doesn't have to be a solitary endeavor.
Okay.
In fact, he actively encourages seeking feedback from trusted sources.
That makes sense.
He suggests sharing your work early and often. Not for validation,
Right.
but for valuable insights that can help you refine and improve.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's about transforming our relationship with feedback from something to be feared
Right.
to something to be embraced. Instead of seeing criticism as a personal attack,
Yeah.
we can view it as an opportunity for growth and refinement.
And he emphasizes the importance of choosing our feedback sources wisely. Right.
Surrounding ourselves with individuals who are both supportive and discerning can make all the difference.
You know, it's fascinating how Ajmal weaves together these seemingly disparate concepts,
Yeah.
fear, curiosity, action, feedback, into a cohesive framework for navigating the creative process.
Right.
It's like he's providing us with a roadmap for transforming our passions into tangible realities.
And what's even more compelling is that he doesn't shy away from the potential challenges and setbacks along the way.
Okay.
He acknowledges that there will be moments of doubt, frustration, and even outright failure.
Right.
But he encourages us to view these obstacles not as reasons to give up,
Yeah.
but as valuable learning opportunities that can ultimately strengthen our resolve and deepen our understanding.
It's that resilience, that willingness to keep going even when things get tough, that ultimately separates those who simply dream from those who make their dreams a reality.
And I think that's what makes Ajmal's message so powerful and inspiring.
Right.
He's not promising a quick fix or a guaranteed path to success.
Yeah.
He's offering a set of tools, principles, and perspectives that can empower us to navigate the messy, beautiful, and often unpredictable journey of bringing our passions to life.
And on that note, I think it's important to emphasize that the outcome of this journey might not always align with our initial expectations. That passion project you've been nurturing might evolve into something completely different than you envisioned.
That's such an important point.
Right.
And Ajmal actually celebrates this element of surprise.
Okay.
He suggests that by releasing our attachment to a specific outcome, we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities we might never have imagined otherwise.
It's about trusting the process, embracing the detours, and allowing ourselves to be guided by the unfolding journey itself.
Right.
Who knows what hidden treasures we might uncover along the way.
And ultimately, that's the message I find most resonating in Ajmal's writing.
Okay.
It's not about achieving some external measure of success.
Right. But about cultivating a sense of fulfillment that comes from aligning our actions with our deepest passions.
So for you listening, what does this all mean?
Yeah.
If you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or discouraged by that passion project that's been gathering dust in the corner of your mind,
Right.
I encourage you to revisit Ajmal's words in his blog post, Lit Up from the Inside, on his website, theborderofmind.com.
He invites you to embrace the messiness, to celebrate the imperfections, and to remember that the journey itself is where the real magic lies.
And perhaps, just perhaps by taking that first microburst of action, you'll discover that you too can be lit up from the inside. So we spent this episode unpacking some really powerful concepts from Ajmal's blog post.
Yeah.
But I think it all